Tonight, security councils in Ashanti and Volta regions compelled to deploy armed officers to remove a Chinese national who later tested positive for coronavirus and an Italian who both resisted calls to get medical attention after showing COVID-19 symptoms. There are fears now in Ashanti region that the Chinese national may have infected other people who are now being traced.
But you are still refusing. But we can't put the public in any danger. For that reason, we had to call RESEC, the security agencies, to support us to convey him to the hospital. And truly, when we tested, he was positive.
We have details as the tourism authority closes all beaches across the country.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion, also brought to you by Gasem Cement, the Nation Build, and Vodafone. The future is exciting ready. The affairs tonight in the Ashanti regional capital that the Chinese national who refused to be tested and get medical attention may have infected a number of people with the coronavirus. The Ashanti regional health director today, Emmanuel Tinkrine, disclosed at the press conference that they had to call in the Ashanti Regional Security Council, who sent in a team of armed police officers backed by military men to forcibly remove this Chinese national who later tested positive for the coronavirus. He's currently receiving treatment under armed guard. I want to take you to Ashanti region shortly, but listen to the Ashanti Regional Health Director, Emmanuel Tinkrine, addressing the press today.
Sometimes there's a need to break confidentiality. Using the Trapatre issue as a test case. In fact, this is a person who has been sick at home. And everybody realized that from the signs and symptoms and from the travel history, this may be one of the conditions. So we were alerted, and then our team went there, and then we realized that that's the situation. But he was still refusing. But we can't put the public in any danger. For that reason, we had to call RESEC, the security agencies, to support us to convey him to the hospital. And truly, when we tested, he was positive. So you know that in situations like this, though human rights and other confidentiality issues are very important, but public health is also the key. So if you are not conforming to the public health principles, we'll have to apply all force. And we have the public health law.
Well, my colleague Ohiming Terry is following this story for us. It's on the line with details. Ohiming, we understand now that the health officials in the Ashanti region are now combing the town, doing contact tracing, looking for people that this Chinese national may have infected.
Yes, Evans, the situation has thrown the entire Atonsu and Chapatre area into some sort of fear for people, a fear for their lives, because they say the Chinese national is actually in charge of a company that is involved in the production of some sort of... so people believe that once people have visited the factory, once there are workers who work there, they may have been infected. But the Ashanti Regional Health Director, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkrine, allayed the fear of the residents, saying that they are doing everything possible to trace all people involved.
The contact tracing for the Trapatre case, we've done it. As at now, the person involved, the patient is involved, is on admission in one of our hospitals, and we've isolated that person. Yes, we've isolated him. All the contacts have been identified. All the contacts are, and we are monitoring them. Those who are staying around and you are not contacts, You don't have to fear. We are saying that the contacts are what? Close contacts. So, for instance, if we stay next door, and you've now come into contact with that person, you are not a contact. You are not a contact. The next house is not a contact. And once your name is not on the contact list, then it means that you've not been identified as a contact.
Well, Ohiming, what's the background to this?
Yes, Evans, the background is that this is a 27-year-old Chinese national who we are told traveled outside the country and returned to the country a few days ago. But he was presented with a case definition of COVID-19, looking at his travel history and the fact that he presented with the symptoms. Residents in and around him became suspicious and alerted health officials. But unfortunately for him, he wouldn't budge to any calls by health officials to accompany them to the hospital for testing. But they had to resort to the Regional Security Council, who also provided some police and military personnel and ensured that the patient, I must say, was sent to the hospital and he tested positive. He's among the 24 confirmed cases that has already been announced by the health officials. But what we do know is that beyond the Chinese national, authorities say there are 3 suspected cases that have been sent to the laboratory for further test evidence.
And of course, I mean, there are even questions tonight about the armed police and military men who had to be called in to forcibly remove him, and the risk that it put all these officers to, but also in Komfo-Anokye itself. A lot of these nurses and doctors are working at the risk of their own lives to save lives themselves, and in this unprecedented times. The Ashanti Regional Health Director has been detailing some measures you're taking to protect staff there, including an insurance package he announced today, Ohiming.
Yes, that was announced by the Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Ohiniba Owusu-Danso, who said, as far as Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital is concerned, they have 400 front-line workers, including doctors and nurses and other caregivers, who will be at the front line to provide services and manage COVID-19 cases. And according to him, they have a comprehensive insurance package that will take care of them. And he says it's not just the monetary gains, but to compensate the doctors and nurses and the staff who, in the course of the management, will look so much, they have to spend so much time. For instance, he mentioned they may have to work over 12 hours a day to save a life in that regard.
For us at Komfo-Anokye, just last Friday, we got an insurance package for more than 400 of our staff. And it is going to involve everybody, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, nurse assistants, laborers, anybody who have been so classified as belonging to the team. Because our thing, the preparation for this is comprehensive. So it's like setting a comprehensive health team to care for any patient. So every cadre of staff is involved. Every cadre of staff is involved. And like I said, by and large, the nurses are in the majority. But even for this particular insurance company, we have actually admonished them that we will give them a list for them to issue the individual awards, and that's exactly what we are going to do in the course of the coming weeks. So everybody is covered. And beyond this, let me add, it is not just the insurance cover. For me, it's also about motivation. We should not wait for people to get sick before they get something out of the efforts. Because if we came to Komfo-Anokye now, we are setting up 3 teams, just so that at least a team can have rest or can go off duty. What it means that on a daily basis, we are running 2 teams and they are running 12 hours, which is more than the regular shift system that they will have worked for, and the risk involved, the sacrifices involved at the end of the period or timelessly. We think that people who have so volunteered and sacrificed their time and whatever for this or for belonging to the emergency preparedness team must be motivated. And I think that is also factored into our calculations in Kofanoti and also at the national level.
They are also deploying police officers to deal, and people there's a severe warning for some residents who are putting in prank calls to the emergency center set up to handle coronavirus suspected cases. There is a strong warning to them tonight about possible sanctions and prosecution.
Yes, the Regional Health Director, Dr. Emmanuel Tinkwan, mentioned that there are concerns over people raising false alarms over COVID-19 suspected cases. For instance, there are people who may want to call that I have seen this man return from abroad, and once he just returned from abroad, you have to come and then take the person to hospital for testing. And he says there are people who are also bent on calling to raise false alarm just like that. And he says beyond that, they want to involve the security operatives to deal with anybody who will have that intention of raising that false alarm.
The prank calls, you all know the importance of it. You are media people. So we are pleading that this is so serious. If we get anybody doing that, making prank calls, we'll have to report the person to security agencies to deal with him. Because this is not the time to joke at all. Those who are jokers, I think we will need to make sure that they face the law. So if you know that you don't have any case and you call us and we get there and there's no case, we'll have to give you to the security agencies to deal with you. And it's so important, we are not going to joke with it at all.
And quickly, Ohime, the Lebanese, the 11th confirmed case in Ghana, the Lebanese national who is a trader in the market in Kumasi, he's finally been buried, but we understand he was buried under strict supervision by the health authorities there.
Yes, Evans, the Lebanese, I'm told he's a Ghanaian national with foreign roots, was buried yesterday at the Otafo cemetery. This time it wasn't, the burial service was not carried out by the family, but the state. When I say the state, I'm referring to health authorities with the support of sanitation and other agencies. And that is what officials announced, that henceforth, if any casualty out of the COVID-19 will be taken, the body will be taken over by the state. And the regional health director appealed to residents to support government in that cause, because that is another way of also preventing the spread of COVID-19.
The burial process, you saw it yourself, is completely supervised. And for that reason, it may seem that we may infringe on some traditional rights, but we don't have any choice. We are to protect public. So we need a lot of cooperation. We need a lot of cooperation from the family members and from all Ghanaians to support us in that process. It's very difficult because we all know the way we cherish our bodies here in the country. So I think it's also a lesson that we need to make sure that we reduce the mortality so that we don't put any family in this difficult situation.
And I want to quickly take you to the Volta region where there's been another case like that also, this time with an Italian. Isaac, what can you tell us about this case? He also apparently refused to go after he's been nudged and asked to several times. Briefly tell us what has happened. What's the latest on that?
The latest is that Adam Alassa, who is 35 years, has been discharged from the Damago Hospital, being cleared as coronavirus negative. In fact, his situation created a huge panic among the people of Savannah region, not just the Damago. And some workers within the officialdom here were threatening to leave the region if his test proved positive. It all started when Adam arrived from Italy some 3 weeks ago and stayed in the Damago. And the resident, having heard and listened to some education regarding the symptoms of coronavirus individual.
So just to clarify, this is and pardon me, this is not Volta. This is Savannah region, and it is a person who came from what? Italy?
Yes, he came from Italy. He's based in Italy, and usually he comes with goes and goes back. This time he comes and stays. And according to him, he was suffering from a cold, but he was not happy for the fact that some individual put the information on social media claiming that he has the virus. So when he was invited, he actually declined to visit the hospital because of that stereotyping. But they pleaded with him, and he personally moved to the hospital. He was quarantined, and the test sent to Kofandochi Hospital, and the results that came proved negative
for coronavirus, and I guess that will calm a lot of nerves there in the Savannah region. So it's not the Volta region. Apologies there. It's the Savannah region rather, and he is a person who came from Italy with an Italian background who showed symptoms. I want to bring in the Deputy Health Minister. Hello, for your time. Thank you very much for your time here on Top Story, Alexander Aban.
Thank you very much.
Great. I want to quickly move on to something else that unfolded yesterday. And ask what your take is on that. The NDC has set up a team of experts that they say are willing on request to assist the government in this fight against the deadly COVID-19 disease. It includes some renowned former health officials who were part of the NDC administration then. Has that been formally? Have they reached out formally to you?
No, please.
Okay.
I'm not aware that they have reached out to us formally.
But what do you make of that offer that they've made to assist the government, and they put up this particular team? I'm sure it's come to attention somewhat.
Yes, I read it on the social media. I would like to state clearly that we require the expertise of every Ghanaian, not necessarily giving ourselves tax as NDC expertise, NPP expertise, or CPP, or any other kind of nomenclature that we can give. I think that we should not try to bring in NDC, NPP to take partisan stance in this. If any individual has the goodwill to support, they do not need to put themselves together as a team from the NDC before. Because the point is that for now we have a government. Every Ghanaian at this point is required to do their bit. And so if anybody has an expertise and has the goodwill to assist, they do not need to put themselves together in a partisan fashion before they can help. Unless probably it is for some political capital mobilization, there's no need for them to be put together as expertise from the NDC or a team from the NDC before they can help. That's the only problem I have with it. But apart from that, each of those individuals with their own expertise in their field of endeavor is wholeheartedly welcome. In any case, about a week ago, private medical practitioners in Accra, I was surprised to see a whole lot of them pledging their commitment to the fight. So we don't need this kind of tagging before they put their expertise. They are welcome as individuals, but let us not create this to maybe for any partisan advancement or whatever it is.
Is your suspicion that this is for some partisan political point scoring?
I believe so, because you see, as I speak here, or as I sit here in Accra, working tirelessly for us to find a solution to the problem, in my constituency, I have had numerous calls to come back home because my political opponent is going around distributing Veronica buckets with soap and sanitizers with his picture and party emblems on it. So what are you doing and all that? And so it gets to this point, you realize that sometimes people would want to make political capital out of it.
Do I get a clarity on this, that once it has been put forward and constituted the way the NDC is presenting it as some NDC group of experts that they've put together to assist, then they are not welcome. But as individuals, they are welcome to assist in any form they can.
Let me state here that I have not had any orders from my political superiors, let me put it that way. So whatever I'm saying here comes from me. But I think that we should not create the... So I don't want to even say that when they come in that fashion, they are not welcome. What we are saying is every individual is welcome to assist. But we should not try to draw political wedges into this.
And quickly, this is still a very fluid, unfolding situation. I know you've been in several meetings today. What update do you have for the public on the national fight?
I think that this evening I'll have the opportunity to be on your own social network, Joy News.
PM Express, yes. And
I'm sure whatever updates would be made available there.
And just before you came on, we've been hearing today a press conference addressed by the Ashanti Regional Health Directorate, and they raised a very serious, alarming situation with a Chinese national who was showing symptoms. He was asked to, of course, submit himself to the protocols. He refused. They had to call in the RECSEC armed police officers to move him, but not before he may have come into contact with many people. They now spend a lot of resources to do contact tracing. I'm just curious. In that circumstance, when people have acted in the way that put the rest of us all in risk, what's the protocol in dealing with those people once they recover, and enforcement of the strict directives that we know and protocols that you have rolled out, the President has announced over the period?
Thank you very much. You see, some people may have let's say symptoms of cold, symptoms of COVID-19. It may not necessarily be. The fact that we have this disease must not also get people to become so apprehensive that once you see a Chinese national, you already have the thinking that he may have it, and then we, some way, somehow, not deliberately, but in a way, trample on other people's rights. Okay, because as this now, if it turns out, for instance, that the person tested negative.
No, in fact, in this case, he tested positive. In fact, this was announced by the Ashanti Regional Health Directorate today at the press conference. He tested positive, but he refused to submit himself to the protocols, and they had to deploy armed police to forcibly remove him to get him into a health facility to be quarantined as the protocols dictate.
Yes, because I think that is fair, because we do not want him to be a danger to the rest of society. And so if because of that strong suspicion, which later was proven to be true, people had to do that, well and good. But what it means then is that those who have some way, somehow, in that fight also exposed themselves to possible attack of the virus. And so they themselves may have to also be quarantined and taken through the necessary protocols to see that they have not contracted the virus from him.
I'm grateful. Deputy Health Minister there speaking to us about the latest developments. I'm sure you followed the NDC's own statement earlier about the team that they've put together, a group of experts that they are committing to this national fight. Well, we've had the Deputy Health Minister's response to that, Alexander Aban, who says, well, if you are individuals, everybody's welcome, but his suspicion is that this was put together as part of some political point-scoring agenda. Well, we spoke to former Health Minister Alex Segbefia, who in fact is a member of the NDC expert team that the party had put together, about what the real purpose behind that group is. This is his explanation. He spoke to Arba Kumsi.
We have been in a similar type situation in the past when we were in government, namely the Ebola type situation. Fortunately, we never had the disease in the country, but we had made a lot of preparation towards it. So, as a opposition now, but in government, we had a lot of plans. We had a lot of talk about what we needed to do, and so we have that expertise on the one hand. Then we have people who have worked abroad and who have dealt with similar type situations or have the necessary expertise in this area. And we thought that for three reasons. One, basically because we are Ghanaian and we all have a stake as Ghanaians in this, to have a voice and to be able to help as much as we can. Two, because we are the largest opposition party in the.
So that's Alex Ebefia, former health minister under the John Mahama administration. A short while ago, there are several statements coming in already. If you're one of those who love going to the beach, I have an announcement for you from the Tourism Authority. Maxwell back joins me with that leg of this unfolding story. Maxwell, it appears that all beaches are closed forthwith.
Exactly, and this is a statement coming from the Ghana Tourism Authority, and it says, under the auspices of the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, the Ghana Tourism Authority would like to remind the public about the government's directive suspending all public gatherings. In this regard, the GTA hereby orders all beaches to be closed to the public until further notice. The GTA, with the support of the National Security and the Ghana Police Service, will begin patrols from Tuesday, 24th March 2020 to ensure compliance with the closure order. The general public and tourist business operators are urged to be mindful of the precautionary measures announced by the President of the Republic to fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Evans.
And also from the FDA tonight, there is a warning about fake test kits for coronavirus out there that the FDA is very concerned about.
Exactly. The FDA says it has not registered any rapid diagnostic test kits for screening and diagnosis of coronavirus. It says the current test for screening and diagnosis of the coronavirus in Ghana is approved by the Ministry of Health. Is the polymerase chain reaction, the PCR test. It continues to say that the FDA, guided by current global practices and advice from eminent Ghanaian scientists, is also not registering any rapid diagnostic test kits for self-test. It says this process will be guided by independently evaluated diagnostics as an assurance of quality, as evidence accumulates based on rigorous data. The FDA will update and or amend this guidance as appropriate and necessary in the interest of public health and patient protection. It ends by urging the public to adhere to all the directives issued by the President. Evans.
Well, thank you very much, Maxwell. We have more on this unfolding story with the pandemic for you shortly here on Newsnight. We start right now.